go!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a special day here at SIMSeniors. And as you can hear the cars already being raucous in the background, I think this track needs no introduction. You saw the title, you saw the screen, you've seen where we're going. It's the Nordschleife. The Nürburgring is here, ladies and gentlemen, for round 4 of SIMSeniors here tonight. We've got a lot to look forward to, but my name is Ben Sapsford. I'll be your guide for this evening, and I welcome you all to the beautiful race that we're about to exhibit. It's going to be a heck of a run here. 33 cars currently adorn the track, and with that, I think it's only fair that we go straight to the track. We waste zero time. We see who is out there and who's going to be leading the pack as far as running goes. We see a couple of cars that are already out in full swing on the field, and while we have qualifying underway, a curious thing to note, you may see the deluge of cars now making their way out of the GP circuit. That is because, unlike any other session here in SIMSeniors, this qualifying is a free-for-all. That's right, folks. Every single car, every single class is going to be entitled to the full half an hour. We thought, well, the track's big enough. They're not exactly going to be fighting for space. I think might as well throw everyone's hat into the ring. But on a serious note, going to see lots of times being posted very quickly. We're not going to have to wait long to see what the top brass can demonstrate to us here on the racing circuit, as we're already on board with P2 in the Gold Class Championship. That is Maximilian Grosges. 3 points behind Lindblom, who with a 10 points penalty sits at 112 points in the championship. Grosges has been one of his main title competitors. Of course, not to be outdone by some of his Wolfpack teammates, but it's hard to argue with an 100% podium record, and only 2 firsts and a second here for Lindblom means that he's almost having a perfect season thus far. A lot to be looking forward to here around the circuit. We've got the likes of Grosges, we've got Wolfslanner, who currently stands in P9, just sitting behind him on the timing boards. You can see they're just going to have a quick check around and see how everyone is doing. We'll get a chance to tour the field before we get things fully rolling for all of our racers. Adjust that timing board there. So first out of the docket and furthest ahead going to be Grosges, followed by Wolfslanner. As mentioned, a little bit further astray is Matthias Langs, the Pixel Pilot's Nismo driver, and hopefully see some good performance out of them. P4 in the championship so far. If they didn't get a 4-point penalty, they would be directly on par with their teammate as they just get onto the Nordschleife section of the course. Loris O'Wiggle, third with 83 points. Well, looking around at some of the other areas of the standings and some of the other classes, Linatus, previously in gold, now in the middle of silver with 64 points, is Nismo. I am curious as to whether he's actually performed better in the Nismo versus the Audi. And despite making a point of it nearly every round, I do genuinely think Audi was his better car. I think he had a lot more seat time, I think he was a bit more settled. And despite the Nismo seeming to be one of the top picks for the season, a lot of the top drivers have switched over to it, with exceptions. I think he seemed genuinely more settled in the Audi. It's an off-pick, sure, but of course I'm not in the driver's seat. I can only judge so much. Maybe I'm just nostalgic. But Guillemot in the Lexus, a car that was previously an off-pick, but seems to have made a bit of a resurgence in this season so far and has promised some fairly decent results. Guillemot currently P5 in the standings. A little bit wobbly as he comes out of there, but he's got, out of the 2 races he's competed in, a first and a second. So if he was there for round 2, he would be at the top of the tables right now. We're just waiting for the drop round to really come into effect before we see the championship really stand on its own 2 feet. I expect Guillemot to make quite the surge towards the podium side of the aisle by the time we get to the second half of the season, that's for sure. A little bit further away, we have got the likes of Björklund, who is P10, 44 points, also in the Lexus. But looking at some of the other classes here, we got Simon Eade in the silver class in his Porsche, and he is a little bit further down in the championship. He's P13 out of 15 drivers. They might have a chance to turn things around here at the Green Hell. Who knows? A couple of points here could put him ahead Hellstrom, maybe even Chris Wilson as he stands in his BMW M4. Going to be quite a race for sure. And so welcome to everyone who's jumping in. Wait to share the racetrack and share the stories with you as we get things rolling. Ramon Lorenzo. Another driver certainly worth watching. I think a driver that on race day sometimes struggles to convert what is otherwise really solid qualifying into a race finish. I think a driver who's more than capable, just needs a bit of refinement in terms of consistency. Being dotted around the field as we take a cursory glance, there's a lot of drivers on this circuit and a lot of them who've got some points to prove coming out of today. Always of the belief that if you can survive the Green Hell, you can survive nigh on anything. I certainly on the top gold class runner, and one of the stars of the show for a couple of seasons now is Lindblom. 112 points, 100% podium finish record alongside Grosges just behind. And the only drivers, I believe, to have done it, because even Alex North, leader of the bronze, has lost that moniker with his finish down in, say, Imola. There was a bit of a kerfuffle, shall we say, for his race there, but hopefully he gets a chance to really show that performance back in full. Got James Payton heading back into the pits along with Dizzy, aka Dismikes. I can see the outlap is a little bit different here for the Nordschleife. They only have to lap the GP circuit once, as opposed to taking the full layout. I think that would be a bit extreme. So Lindblom on his way to the other section. Now, as we can meanwhile check in on the likes of Linatus, who is just finishing their lap up as they come down the back straight and into the final couple of corners. Heavy braking zone here. Key thing with the Nordschleife is you've got to be careful of those curbs. Those curbs are absolutely merciless, and the track does not give you a lot of wiggle room. Reputation speaks volumes. But first time across and on the boards, Linatus with an 8-minute 18.452. It's just been usurped by Guillemot in the gold class with an 8.11, before heading straight back into the pits. Björklund gets himself an 8 minutes and 16 seconds as Sean Murphy, who I can see a bit of support for in the chat as well, so we absolutely love that. Keep it coming. But Sean Murphy is coming in hot. Just going to boost my audio volume a little bit there, seeming a little bit quiet relative to some of the other sources. But Murphy coming through. Final couple of corners and chicane now. He's in the bronze. If he can get anything above an 8-minute 20, that puts him in good stead relative to the rest of the class. Question is, can he handle that as we come up to the line? Here's Murphy, 8-minute 32. So maybe a bit optimistic with my benchmark. We'll have to wait and see as the rest of the class now comes into the fold. A few more cars making their way up to the line. Here is Peter Smith in his McLaren. Number 113. Hoping to get maybe below the 8-minute 30 mark. Alex North has got himself an 8.28. So, remember, leader of the Bronze Championship. He is effectively the benchmark. Peter Smith up to the line. 8.30 to beat. It's an 8.32.3. So he's ahead of Murphy, but it's not enough to really get the movement that I think he was hoping for. Couple more cars coming up to the line now. Chris Wilson with an 8:28.7. That's going to be for the silver class. That's going to put him in a good spot. That puts him in P5. Meanwhile, O'Wiggle comes up to the line. Gold class, you're looking at anywhere around the 8:15 mark. AMR high and dry above the rest of the field. It's a 14.5 for Loris O'Wiggle. And a solid result to stack himself up against the competition. Ramon Lorenzo. A strong Quay Merchant, but only managing an 8:37 here. Seems like his driving style could be a bit bursty. Doesn't always translate so well to these longer racetracks. I mean, the Nordschleife is the exception, not the rule, but still, you got to bring your A game just as much, if not more. There's Simon Aid, silver class runner, so looking around the 8:20s. What's he going to get? Up to the line. It's an 8:24, so solid run here for Aid. That will put him in P6. As the current leader is Paul Hamby. Across the line not too long ago, but 8-minute 18.302, fastest time standing from the silver class. And you've got 8:16 to the 8:11 for the golds. A few more cars still need to cross that line. Plenty of them still need to really get a move on. Marsh comes through. It's an 8:13.4. Excellent stuff. Great. Yet to set a time, but in bronze, could stand to make a real dent. Got Chris Bourne with a 9:06. Certainly not the time that he'd be looking for. So he should be coming out relatively soon to get another attempt. Now, the thing is, with the Nordschleife, qualifying can run a little bit longer than other rounds in the season. There is an extended lead and end time just off the basis. The track is so long that drivers who are finishing their laps have to make it what would be the equivalent of 3 laps on any other racetrack. The curiosity about this rendition of the track as well. I've been very lucky to have actually gone to the Nordschleife, and it is just as undulating and roller coaster-like in nature as this rendition applies. But I also noticed some of the branding has been slightly changed from the real-life counterpart, like the diner in the background as you head down the main back straight. Now, that is the Touristenfahren entrance. And that is cordoned off from the GP circuit when you actually have the main days. But, say, the branding of the diner behind has been completely changed, completely removed. It's just generic Nürburgring, which I fully understand. But I actually have in my kitchen a couple of mementos from that place, but it was a magical experience. If anyone hasn't gone, certainly recommend going. One of those things that if you are even remotely interested in cars or racing, it's akin to that of a pilgrimage. As Lindblom is about to christen his lap time here for us here tonight. AAA NSX making his way down that back straight. Now the question is, it's an 8-minute 11 to beat from Guillemard. What could be argued is main rival on pace alongside Grosges. The two have come to blows in the championship in seasons prior. Is that same fight going to be tailored here, rendered on the race course? I do hope so. Guillemard looks to be trying to reprise, however you pronounce it, his role as a championship fighter this season. Here comes Lindblom to the line. He had a bit of a tail slide, and the best he could manage was an 8-minute 26. So he's going to have to get back to the pits, get himself back in trim, and right on the circuit once more quickly. That 8-minute 26 is needing to be improved as Grosges is going to dethrone Guillemard's time with an 8-minute 10.9. Immaculate racing lap here And we'll see how the rest of the field fares. McNair on it, the run here. Of course, last time we saw him, last Tuesday, it was his 1,000th race with the organisation. And I think there is no commentary that you can add beyond amazing. There's nothing really that can be said to that. Continuing on just as strong. Hopefully we see a good performance from him tonight. He stands P8 with an 8:16.9. And an 8:13 is the sort of midpoint for the class. So if he can hit that, he'll be in very good standing. Ooh, bit of a slide there. Unfortunate, he's going to have lost a lot of speed. Recover it fairly quickly. He does have to ease off heading onto that back straight, but that would have been anywhere up to half a second. What kind of speeds can he hit? Track is certainly intense. When you are on board, when you are full pushing, it is an intense experience. All the way down here. Under the main bridge. Quickly using the inclines. They get you, keep yourself gripped up. Careful of the bumps. Avoid the curbs in this section if you can. Going uphill, high speed. Need to have maximum grip for your braking power. Looks like he's going full let-off though, and retiring to the pit lane. This run is a non-starter. Meanwhile, Felix Wildner coming through with an 8:19.8. Can he beat it? If he can get himself up to an 18, he's going to be in very good spots. He's an 18.6. It's not enough for position, but it's solidified his spot in P3 alongside Hamby and Lenatus, who's got an 8:17 flat. Maybe I was just a doubter. Maybe I was wrong about the Nismo switch. Looks like he's certainly extracted some good out of that car tonight. Now we have many cars who have yet to set a time here. John Gabbett, David Smith, for example, both racers needing to set times. A lot of the bronze class cars seem to have forgone their quality attempts, but if they need to go, they've got to do it now. They are running out of time and running out fast. Needs to be pushing and quickly making your way around that circuit. Here's James Payton. Previously had to retire out from their initial run, but can they get a second bite of the cherry here? Can they make this one happen? And all in, going full push. This is one for the books, silver class. What's it going to be from Payton up to the line? It's an 8:36. So while it's not the time he was necessarily looking for, it is something on the boards. And I think that's more than anything what he needed right now. Operating in that danger zone can play with your mind some. 8:14.5 to beat for Loris O'Wiggle. Can he get it as he comes up to the line? It's an 8:12. So puts him up on the second row, P3. Almost an entire second ahead of Wolfslener, who is just coming up to bat for the final section of the race course. But Craig Morrison and his BMW making his way down that back straight. He's got himself in a neat spot, P7, but he's still the lowest out of the bronze cars in terms of time. 8:55 to beat. Doesn't look like he's going to be making much in terms of position, but can he make it in terms of time improvement? That's the most important thing here, I think, for him. Up to the line now, 8:52.9. So while it's not an improvement on position, it is an improvement on time, and I think that's the confidence boost that he might have needed here. Hamby and Aid are both coming up to the line. The Lamborghini absolutely flying. P2 only behind Lenatus by a second, given the two were prior racers together in gold. Hamby joined silver a season earlier than Lenatus. Up to the line, no improvement sadly for Hamby. I think this one is the full commit from him though, given that he's not got enough time to fully get things rolling with a new lap. If he did, it would be very close to the wire. David Smith going very aggressive on some of these apexes. Cars are through now. Gorich 826. Leader of the bronze cars, having done a good job holding the line. Very impressed. Impressed with all of these drivers. I mean, even making a successful lap in decent time around the Nordschleife is an achievement in and of itself. This is a race course that demands respect in a way that the other race courses do, but not to the same extent and gravitas. There is much more of an intensity related with the Nordschleife that you don't really get in the same light with more traditional racetracks, with shorter racetracks, to be blunt. Deutsch is coming up to the line, and so far it's looking mighty fast. His delta's up by a few seconds, and he could really extend his lead here. He's even going to leapfrog the likes of Ede and Lindblom. 22.7 here for the bronze class leader. Lindblom, meanwhile, coming through. And about midway through the course, how is Morrison going to fare? He's just come up across the line. It's going to be a new lap for him starting here as John Gabbert his way through. Seeking that opportunity he shall get. It's an 8:30.057. That is going to be P5 for him here. Because yet to make a time, you've got the bottom 6, 4 bronze, 1 silver, 1 gold. Lang is a bit of a curiosity. I don't know why he hasn't been able to set a time here. It looks like there's a tiny bit of debris there as David Smith is going to and ah about heading into the pits, eventually tucking in to the pit lane. So that will mean, logically speaking, he's not going to have a time set. Lang, meanwhile, is going to be pushing, and we'll see how he's faring there. Wolfsletter up to the line, last chance for improvement. Remember, he just needs an 8:11 and he'll be up in the podiums. Is he going to have it? He's going to be very close. It's an 11.8. He's going to jump a wiggle coming out of this one. Victor Verfa is going to be an 8:14.3 meanwhile. So a solid position and here for the Aston pilots, or the Aston Pixel pilot, if we're counting. Now, last chances for many on the course. You've got Guillemard, you've got Lang, you've got Linatus. They're all running together. You've got Wildner, you've got Lindblom. 2 Pixel Pilots cars running together. The curiosity there, I wonder what's going to come of that. Oh, no! Lindblom! Oh, that is a death nail for your qualifying, my friend. Just took a bit too close to the sun. Let's have a bit of a replay of that, if it wants to function. So we're on board with the helicopter. Hopefully we get a better angle of this, and we're going to have to switch to the TV cameras because the trees are going to obscure the view. And oh, you see a little bit oversteer and just the snap of the rear axle. That's all it takes. Slamming into the barriers. And that's all she wrote. Straight into the wall. Game over, folks. So Lindblom will not be setting a new time. And at best... Oh, wait. Or is he? He's going to go all in. He's going to take his chances and get himself back on that course. Not a moment too soon, might I add. As it is last chances. Guillemard has just overtaken Rodriguez with an 8:10.16. Here's Wildner. BMW comes up to the line, 8:17.8. So he's going to jump Hamby in the timing order. And he's going to get himself up into second. How are the rest of the field going to respond? Here is Verfart heading back into the pits here as James Payton is going to be coming up very soon to the back straight and then the line. Looks like he's making some serious improvements on his lap time. Going to be a hard-fought run and a hard-fought race here, that's for sure. So this is where formation is going to start from for these drivers. Just around the sort of back straight. You're not going to have to do a 8-minute plus formation lap, which in formation lap regs would be more like 11 or 12 minutes. Luckily don't have to do that. Payton up to the line. Massive gains on his deltas here. Anything in the 20s is going to be ideal for him here. What's he going to be able to extract? It's an 8:17! Payton with the metal chair out of nowhere gets himself slap bang second in the silver standings. I don't quite believe that. That was a mighty attempt. Beautiful. Beautiful run there. Here is going to be Grosges starting up his final attempt of the session as many are looking to wrap up and many have already gone back into the pits. You can see a few lone drivers dotted around the perimeter of the green hell. 75 seconds on the clock, which means technically we are genuinely done now with any lap attempt, unless you're already halfway through your outlap in the GP circuit. That is time. So with 60 seconds on the clock, we are going to now start seeing the final runs pour in from the field. 8:12 to beat for O'Wiggle. Is there going to be such improvement? Or is this going to be the start of a run? Looks like this one was the start. A primer lap. Meanwhile, what is Hamby going to do? Looks like he's roughly on par with his time here, but he needs half a second. He can get half a second, he can jump Wildner, he can get P3 in his class. Restore himself to his podium. And Hamby Hackett up to the line. Looks pretty good time-wise on the last section. 8:18.3, 8:18.2 for Hamby. Now he has made the improvements. He's pulled to a stop. Pit lane. Next season, leader so far for bronze, it's Alex North. Currently standing P2. Only behind Groch, but Groch is well and away. He's over 6 seconds ahead. Is North going to be able to take such luxuries? Comes up to the line. 8:28 to beat. 2:07. Gonna get a 0.790, so no improvement there as desired. Curiously, looks like we have Gabbert and Murphin running together. The two running together. Going to be able to see much from them as a result. Murphin going to be soon coming up to that back straight. Had a migraine from Monday now here. With 0 prac, not my season. Well, the fact you're here, the testament to resilience, mate. So, cut yourself a little bit of slack. May not be your season, but certainly your show and you're running it. impressive play. Character. That much is certain, even if the position and the points aren't. We pour our way through. The timer has officially elapsed, has long since elapsed, but see, we have a lot longer of a wait time to compensate for the track length. Sean Murphin up to the line. The compatriot absent. Oscom, Smith, Cyrano, Dismiquez, and Holmes. Going to be a improvement here for Murphin. Gabbert unfortunately not getting to improve. I don't think he was given really the fighting chance there with the spacing and the traffic. But Murphin has got an improvement to a 34. Our last segment track, and the last races of the field are cruising their way. We have Wolfslenner remaining in the 196 Ferrari. We have the 888 of Lindblom with his final chance after his blunder on the previous attempt, forcing a quick retirement from that lap. Been able to get back out and on his feet relatively quickly, all things considered. An impressive show. NSX driver. Goes to carousel. Nice and committed all the way through. That car looking planted. Ironclad and practically glued that racing surface with a good amount of rotation too. Rotation. Still got a bit more to go. As it currently stands, we have got ourselves confirmed leaders of the qualifying session. Guillemard is your lead as far as gold class goes. Got an 8:10.167. Inatas is your leader for silver with a 16.232. And then we have Groich in 16 overall, but leader of the bronze, 8:22.7. And more pertinent to that is that 8:22.7 is a entire, on Randy Zimmer, that is an entire 5 seconds clear of the next bronze driver. But massive gaps between the two. Just a bit of a disparity in pace. I also think this is one of those tracks where the skill gap is the most pronounced, because any gaps in timing are going to be practically quadrupled across drivers and classes. Just on track length alone. If you have, say, 3 seconds of time between yourself and a driver in a lower or higher class, that is 12 seconds here at the Nordschleife. Combine that with the additional track complexity, and it is a challenge for any driver to run at a high. Wolfslenner, though, he gets across the line. It's a 11.8. Beautiful time, as that's going to... Oh, no, I stand corrected. It's a 10.3. That was prior to the finish line. 10.3, that puts him slap bang next to Guillemard and ahead of Grosges in the second row. But what's that going to say for Lindblom? He comes up to the line. Remember, he needs to get an 8:10 here if he wants to be on the front 2 rows. What's it going to be? It's an 8:08. 8:08.012. Lindblom. That is a beautiful qualifying there. Last driver on the racetrack then, as our wait time is soon to elapse. Wiggle. They're coming in hot down the back straight. 8:08. Just when you think a driver can't come along and extract any more performance. Goes and does it. He pulls 2 more seconds out of his rival's time. Seriously impressive. Last car on the field, it's a wiggle. It'll be 8:12 to beat. Really needs to get an 8:10. He wants a chance at that top spot, in the top spots. A wiggle comes to line at 8:10.7. He's just going to display Grosges at the last hour. And that is time, ladies and gentlemen. That is time. So, let's take a quick look at your drivers who are cooking. Your pole position holders for each class, as mentioned. Lindblom with an absurd 8 minutes, 8 seconds, 0.012. Then you move over to Silver. That is going to be courtesy of a certain Thomas Artus with an 816.232. Finally, well, not from that, it's Daniel Groch with a 822.7. No, about 7 seconds between classes on average, between the pole times for each. It's a 60 to 22 and then an 8 to 15. Averages out about 7 seconds between each class, which at a track like this is not too significant, but enough to make things interesting. Remember, like we said, this is practically quadrupling any track-related differences in skill and pace. So this would be the akin to about 1.5 seconds between classes, which is not actually that big of a margin, all things considered. Bronze to gold, that would be 3-ish seconds. And this is about on par, if slightly lower, in terms of variance. There we go, folks. This is about to get interesting. Now, one thing I want to hear from you is any predictions that you may have. A lot rides on tonight, purely on the basis that after tonight is when we're going to start seeing drop rounds play a bit more of a factor in the championship at large. Those drop rounds are going to be making their presence known on the standings. They're going to make their presence known on the way that drivers fight and interact with each other. There's a lot. There is a lot. So, big question mark here is going to be how these drivers handle racetrack like this. Now, I believe this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone watching, this is the only track where we have had a broadcasted red flag. I know that we've had some that have been due to technical issues in the very brief instance. But I think, say, this is one of the few tracks where we have had a genuine red flag. Crossing wires. Fact check me. Hopefully, we don't get the same here. That's all I can say. Return to the green, Hal, and the bad luck does not return with. Let's take our quick grid walk from the field's perspective then, as our session is about to get underway. We might have to cut this short depending on time, but the 888 Lindblom is going to be at the lead of the order alongside Frederick GMI 208 and fated rival from seasons past in the Lexus 2 seconds. Another 2 seconds, there's a 2.3, it's 196 of Peter Wolf. Stand up with Loris O'Wiggle in his Pixel Pilots and Nismo 317 in P4. Maximilian Grosges in his 134 Ferrari lines up alongside Dave Marsh in the number 27 NSX. Drivers are already going to start making their way up, so let's get this done nice and snappy. Victor Verfart, number 707 is Nicholas Björklund in the 444 Lexus. Matthias Lang going to be behind him in the 776 Nissan. And then completing your top 10 is going to be Thomas Linatus. I fear that that is all we're going to have time for, as the drivers are already getting rolling. Roll through who we can. McNair is going to be in the 11th spot alongside James Payton in the number 248 McLaren. Going to be Felix Wildner. Curiously, we have David Smith starting in the pit lane. He would have been P30, but Wildner in the 87 BMW alongside Paul Hamby in the number 84 Lamborghini, and then Robert Homer in the number 6. That things are going to be getting heated pretty soon. P15, then P16 is Ian Oversuri, and then looking a bit further down, say you have Daniel Kreutsch in P17 and Simon Age P18, but that's where we're going to have to cut things short here, as the drivers are now making their way onto the racetrack in full. 1 hour of racing ahead of us, so let's get strapped in, get your popcorn. The track is hot here for round 4 of season 12 here at SimSeniors. We come to the line and we are green. Let's have some fun. Let's see what these drivers can do. Immediately close quarters for Wolfslener and O'Wiggle. The squeeze coming from the Ferrari from the outset. Dave Marsh heads to the inside as you've got multiple cars all vying for position. There's Lenata slotting himself in a 3-wide tangle, and there is Björklund getting a little bit hung out to dry, as a result getting squeezed out of position. There is McNair, you can see just behind. Contact being made, multiple cars having a bit of a casualty. It looks like Oscar was parked right on the apex, figuratively and literally, as contact was made further down the order. Wolfslener has a bit of contact between himself and O'Wiggle, tries to establish some early positioning. Things looking pretty spicy as far as the early run goes. Now we're going to see a lot of chaos early on. Now this is where things are going to be at their most heated. When we get to, let's say, a couple of laps in, we start to see divergence in strategy, give or take. Not so much in the pit strategy, because you're fairly restricted here at the Nordschleife, but how much you're going to lift and coast versus go full push, conserve your tyres and fuel. That's where we're going to see some divergence. Lots of drivers. For now, though, very tightly compacted. Plenty of action to be had. Lindblom, for instance, chasing Guillemard down with all of his might, as Marsh has been ducked down a couple of spots. And oh, wait, there is a helicopter cam as Marsh is off into the gravel just before the chicane of the GP circuit and onto the Nordschleife itself. Verfart and Lang, 2 Pixel Pilots cars in close quarters. Hopefully they play nice. Get onto the meat and potatoes, the actual Nordschleife section of the race course. Guillemard's pulled out half a second on Lindblom, but Grosges is chasing hard on O'Wiggle. Looking for any chance that he can get, watching on those curves, keeping the balance of things for now in order to get the best opportunity later in the circuit. Already seeing a couple of tussles and struggles. Drivers trying to keep in proximity as the field is in limbo. Hayden trying to chase him down on McNair, and multiple cars in the upper half of the field are running real close together. Marsh and Wildner, for example. Visudi and Hamby. Björklund and Linatus. Verfart even closer. He managed to tail off of his teammate, and oh, big slide from the Aston. He barely keeps it under control. Good save from Victor. Just able to tuck it in behind his teammate. Looks like contact between Morrison and Dismukes. The two drag racing each other down to the end of this first sector here. Dismukes just getting out ahead of the way. And all meanwhile, Chris Wilson has lost the car. He's either had contact or has had an almighty mistake to end all mistakes. Let's get a bit of a replay on that. Let's get a bit of a trace back. He's dipping down to the right, so using a bit of that camber, and oh yeah, big skipping on the rear axle, and that is fatal. Slams into the wall, slides across the track. luckily no casualties. I think that's the craziest part out of all of this, is that there were no casualties out of that situation. Here is Grosges chasing on Wiggle here. P4ing in the balance. Lorenzo and Smith having a bit of a tussle between the two. Lorenzo not coming out too hot from there. Currently stands to be in a bit of a tight situation. Saying that, Simon Eade is going to be... Is he beached on the curb there? He's just waiting for a chance to move. Oh no, looks like he's okay. Looks like he's okay. Used the wall a little bit to get himself rotated, but otherwise, yeah, a bit of a risky spot to be stopped at. The stand wanting to get moving fast. Not even a full lap completed, and we've had chaos all the way. Oh. About halfway through the lap, or coming towards really the latter side. You have to mention that I am impressed. A few different drivers. I mean, I'm impressed with Linatus, certainly. He's made 4 positions just in this first lap alone. He stands in P6 from a 10th start. Quite an impressive run. Fortunately, same cannot be said for Wilson, as he's had yet another slide, and I think it is compounding off of his earlier smash into the wall. Control is at a premium now for his BMW, as Eva Asker going to be overtaking. He's only remaining ahead of Holmes. Is severely marooned from the rest of the field. Contact. Sadly, Wilson's going to find himself left in a little bit of no man's land as he tries to recompose and gain capture time back on the team. Unfortunately, Wilson returns to the pits after his what looked like only 3rd impact incident. And that is going to be potentially time. Unless he's RTP'd in order to get repairs done as a matter of urgency. Hopefully he gets back on track, but if not, might have our first casualty before we've even completed the first lap. Let us know your predictions for how many laps we're going to get completed. And a bit of quick maths of coming off of qualifying. You can say reasonably it's about 8 minute 30 per lap, give or take. Compared to quali trim, we're not going to see the perfect pace match from quali trim. Being conservative and saying 8 minute 30, that would leave you with about 7 to 8 laps maybe. Like McNair has fallen on a bit of hard times. He's dropped a couple of positions fast. May have been a mistake there. But crucially, he's around a lot of other cars, so he does have a chance to fight back. A legion of cars down this back straight. This upper mid pack is densely congested. As exhibited, Payton, he's chasing down Wildner, very close to doing so and committing the overtake to memory, but just can't get it quite done. Not yet anyway. Coming through to the start-finish line. Back up at the front. Lindblom. He's sniffing. He's sniffing at the position. You can tell he's hungry for it. Just can't quite get the angle. We're also going to see a little bit of slipstream overtaking throughout the course of the race on that back straight. Not uncommon tactic, but you do leave yourself open to a potential immediate retake on turn 1 on the hairpin chicane. A bit of scrutiny to be levied there. Otherwise, relatively safe bargain. We do have Smith, Lang and Gabber all heading into the pit, marking a bit of a turn of events for a first lap pit stop to happen. Sometimes it's a bit of a nothing burger, with damage not being rectified until your proper pit stop. But when you have damage around the Nordschleife, that has a pronounced impact. It looks like a relatively quick endeavour, as Smith only spent what looks like 2.2 seconds in the pit lane according to the metrics here. Meanwhile, by comparison, Lang has 38.5 second travel time in the pit lane and then 34.7 pit stop time. Metrics got confused. He's chasing down the Audi. The Audi is going to yield out of the way, and Chris Wilson is back out of the pit, which I personally am very happy for. Holmes cannot be said to have these same fortunes, as he's limping in that Audi. Like, there is substantial damage on that car, and that's going to be playing havoc with your aero package. Scary stuff sometimes. Oh no! Peter Smith turns to pit lane. What's coming of him? Let's see what happens with Smith. So, joined the Nordschleife section of the circuit, making his way down that hill, down the decline. Oh, ouch! That's a mighty impact into the wall there. Now, that's a tale as old as time. Those curbs are merciless here. So I fully understand why that took him the way that it did. 10 minutes in, only 1 lap down. Feels crazy just. But so far, looks like Lindblom is not able to get past Guillemard. At least not yet. Whether it's a tactic or whether it's you can't get by, it's only your call here at the audience at home. But as far as my standing goes, I think that genuinely struggling to find spots to get past. And certainly not able to find ones where he's committed fully to the overtake and is safe from a counter. Vasquez might even be making some moves here, as a Wiggle briefly gets a warning, or a danger warning. A slight excursion off the track, but nothing that he couldn't recover, clearly, as he still holds a not insurmountable gap. Now, apologies if you do see some cars who don't have opponents on screen. That is an error in one of my settings regarding number of visible cars, so I think that that's something to certainly... Oh, Lorenzo! I think classic bit of oversteer there. Gonna slam straight into the wall, but he's still committed to his lap. Gonna finish the lap out, and then he's gonna be heading into the pit. Doubt about it. That Porsche has seen better days. Certainly seen better days. Taking a bit of an attestation on our field at present. Leading the gold class, it's Friedrich Gehrmar, who has not had a easy run. That being said, he's got Lindblom basically sniffing his diffuser the entire time that we have seen the two on track together. They've marooned Wolfsländer a couple of seconds away, but Gehrmar so far holds the crown. Looking at P6, we have Linatus, who has done a brilliant job of gaining some space for himself on the course. Björklund is going to be a little bit further behind, 2.2 seconds. And while that does fluctuate, what isn't fluctuating is his commitment to the lead, as Wildner in P11 is his next closest rival. Looking over at the bronze finally, as did briefly get a yellow for Sean Murphin. I think he had a brief off-track moment. Alex North has reasserted himself as one of the leading players in the season thus far. Now, Groich in P2 is not too far behind. He's less than 2 seconds and certainly seems hungry for the spot. So we'll have to watch this space with these two. As further up, we have Verfart and Björklund having a bit of a trade with each other. Let's keep an eye on these two and see where they land. Like Björklund has been tailed off, as he's already lost about a second to him just in this complex alone. Now we head through and up to the back straight as the second lap is set to be completed momentarily. Curious thing is Grosges is going to be chasing a wiggle, and that may seem like nothing out of the ordinary, but this back straight, with the length of it, there is a decent chance for Slipstream to close the gap and potentially even make an overtake. But does the Ferrari have the top end? I don't think so. You can see he's not really able to follow in the same way. But Nismo just has the superior top end, and he certainly leaned into it with all his might. Wiggle has tried to go for the strategy of getting him in the corners. Hasn't effectively worked in the way he hoped. It'll be Hamby retreating behind Hiro. Got the straight line speed battle down in his favour. Meanwhile, there is Serrano slamming into the wall and having major damage. Come out to that back straight momentarily. That's certainly going to harm his odds. And will effectively force a pit stop, as we have seen from the likes of Ramon Lorenzo. Now, winding the clocks back a bit, this is going to be a POV from Robert Homer. Currently standing P17 after a bit of an off-track excursion. Let's see exactly what happens. Looks like he's heading into that second carousel. Misjudged his line and tried to get on the throttle just a bit too quickly. Unfortunately, happens to the best of us. He recovers quick, but quickly getting himself back ship shape. Here's Homer either way into the pits following that one. That is all she wrote. Back on the GP circuit, Lindblom and Gehrmar continue to spar. I think the motion blur is making these cars look a little bit wonky. But that aside, two are rapid. Absolutely rapid. And Gehrmar still going to be running close, but checking in elsewhere on the field. Homer and Serrano both in the pits. You can see them in for just over a minute. More cars make their way onto the Nordschleife section of the course. Once again, lingering question is not one of who will necessarily win. It is one of who will keep their car in the same direction for the longest time. We've seen even the likes of seasoned veterans and top racers fall victim to the green hell. Daunting track that it can be. So I can see that Lindblom is still hunting down AMR at this point in time. Wonder how long he's going to be biding his time for before he eventually commits to the full move. Opportunity. Oh, we do see such a problem happening as a wiggle briefly was overtaken by Grosquez before he jumped off the side of the circuit and into the wall. There we go. Let's take a POV shot. Grosquez was P5. He goes on the attack, overcooks it, and unfortunately straight into the wall there. And that is going to be sentence as good as done. He's now down at P29 in the pit lane, and unfortunately has retired. We're down now to 32 races. Now. Now, this is where it gets mighty interesting. AMR. What's going on with this guy? I just want to rewind the clocks back a bit and give a full breakdown of what we saw. So AMR. Right now, you can see Lindblom was on the chase. Heading into this next section, a little bit more complex here. Pushing hard, and Lindblom he's biding his time. He has bided his time for about 2 laps now, and he was just waiting for the right time to execute. Now, the big thing here with racers is the pressure. Eventually, you get a chance, and that chance comes in sometimes the most unexpected of places. In this case, GMR making a crucial mistake. That's where he gets the shots that he needs. Lindblom's patience has paid off. And Wolfslenner is also going to be capitalizing on it, although it is technically a teammate. You are still in for yourself. You are in for a driver's... It's not self-preservation, that's not the right word, but you are still in for yourself as an individual, just as much as the team. Wolfslenner and GMR currently stand P1, P2. Might have some other battles brewing in the rest of the field. McNair, for instance, facing down on Björklund. As we have got a crucial... Wait, something's gone wrong with Lindblom. I've completely lost him. He dropped on the standings quickly. I tried to jump over to his camera. Looks like the camera was on a yo-yo for a second there with Linatas. And it's just gone. Just like that. As soon as the advantage was gained. Is that a disconnect from Lindblom? If so, that is brutal. All that patience. We were just complimenting his level of patience on that attack. And by the end of it, no dice. 31 cars. Wait. Lindblom has been able to rejoin, but he's in the pits. He's down in P30. I don't believe this, folks. He's had what by all accounts should have been his race on a silver platter ripped away from him. I do feel bad for Lindblom here. He's been pushed against the wall, I think, on this one. I think that perfect podium record might be coming to an end tonight. And if this is how it's going to play out, then I am concerned for how his championship's going to be shaping up in the future. Now, one curiosity of mine as well is that we have 32 cars, but I'm just trying to locate certain Maximilian. I can't see him on the timing board. Unless my timing board is bugged out and created duplicate drivers. Yeah, I can't see him. Fortunately, it looks like Lang has also suffered a bit of a fate of his own as he stopped, and oh, Robert Homer, I think, trying to take avoiding action, did just the same. Takes a risk in spinning around on the track. Got to be very careful as we have got other racers now teaming through. A Wiggle heads into the pits. Going to be conceding multiple positions as a result. The number 6 car, Robert Homer, still trying to get back on track. Unfortunately, Lindblom is going to be looking like he's remaining in the pits, but is going to still coming out now. I swear I have a commentator's curse to say the one time we have a trade for the lead, tech issue, and then the other time where the lead is said to be in the pits, he immediately comes out. Although I'm complaining, this does give him a chance for some kind of resurgence. Although damage control is probably more of an accurate term here. Morrison and Smith going to have a bit of a drag race of their own, pushing through. Nice execution here as Smith is just going to have a little bit more on the top end. I've got a couple of pit stoppers as well. Visudi and Bourne both heading in. Wiggle comes out of the pits in P13. Two cars go side by side, and Smith is going to be taking things very slow out of that chicane. He's going to practically concede all of the advantage that he gained. A bit disappointing there for Smith, I can't lie. Because it looked like they had control over that situation, and they conceded it. A single chicane. They worked for that. Definitely working. We have got a couple more yellows coming in as Lang has dropped significant time. We're going to quickly just see if there is any credence or reasoning behind that. Looks like Lang running a little bit slow. Coming up to the footbridge. No, it just looks like it was running slow with a slight deviation into the grass before eventually coming to the pit. We're coming up to the half-an-hour mark, folks, which means that it would not be surprising to see multiple, if not the entire rest of the field, head in for the pit stop at the end of this lap. A time is not going to be on the side of those at the back right now, as they've got a bit of a strategic call to make. Got to be finishing off at the perfect time. Groach in the back of North right here. There we are, seeing we are now down to 31 cars officially on the course. It was a slight mistake from my end earlier. I think there was a miscount on the timing board. Do apologise. Which is going to be hunting North down, corner by corner, apex by apex. The thing here is just managing your car as well as the position. North is going to be stuck in somewhat of a similar boat. He's having to play defensive while simultaneously keeping his pace up. We've got 20 seconds between himself and Hamby, so I don't know if it's necessarily viable for him to fight hard. Meanwhile, Björklund having a bit of a tough time. He's just conceded a position to McNair and is already under threat again as Marsh is going to close in rapidly. Can't exactly gain time and clear a gap between himself and Marsh because McNair has now just taken his spot, and with that, the freedom to adjust and move around the track. Inatus is a second further ahead. Not really party to the battle as of yet. Smooth run so far for McNair. He's held his own. He's held his line. A close call though for Marsh. As he's trying to. You can see him just behind. He's trying to size up any kind of attack angles for him to be able to get the move done. The toughest part here at the Nordschleife about overtaking is having the room to do it. You may have the pace, but you don't have the room. Unfortunately, Marsh, I think, just lost out on both counts as he took a bit of a wide apex and lost a crucial couple of tenths. In the pursuit of overtaking opportunities, he's somewhat left himself a little bit short. Here we go through the carousel. Bit of a wobble there, curiously, for both cars. Slight wobbles. Getting a bit too much on the inside there. Over-rotating. But there is a Desmakers. He's going to head out wide and actually going to concede the position to Smith. I think not wanting to cause incident from a mistake he made. Chosen to take the more careful and measured approach. I think around the Nordschleife, that's actually a wise choice. In other situations, I would say fight and hold your line and be defensive. But in this track, one mistake and one impact has much wider reaching consequences. There's less chances for you to recover. Is he taking the calmer route and more conservative strategy? I think will pay dividends for him. He currently stands, I believe, P8 in the bronze class. And while not the best position, it's still something. Still kind of what he needs right now to hold things together. Goody is close to Sean Murphy, but Smith, just in the same light, is also hunting down Morrison. A tale of two battles in this small stretch of the field here. No real chances just yet for an attack. Nair and Lenatus, they could be standing to gain something here. Now, they're even on cars. They've got the same Nismo, so this will be as close to apples as you're going to get for position and slipstream comparison here. Easily a couple of crucial kilometers per hour. About 5 kilometers per hour in it, but that's all it takes. And the distance and length of this straight does mean that even that marginal difference, it stacks to a position. McNair has got himself P4. Approach on the back of North in the same light. Comes up to the end of the lap, and with that back straight is as good as his. Unfortunately, the Ferrari not really being able to extract the same top end. North isn't exactly running the fastest down this straight either. In fact, it's a little bit bumpy.
Ferrari not able to really push the same way. You can see a deluge of cars now heading into the pits for their mandated pit stop. This is the perfect time, folks. This is, as was foretold, 26 minutes, and everyone en masse is heading into the pits. Although, curiously, Greuch is going to take a gamble and is staying out. He stays out a lap longer, and I think in these conditions that is going to be a gamble in every sense of the word. You do not have the same safety net, and you have a much bigger tyre wearing scenario to deal with. Those tyres give way. Say halfway through the lap, you're starting to lose significant grip. Danger zone. Danger zone 110%. Meanwhile, back up at the front, Wolfslander and Guillemard, this is their race to lose, as they've got a stranglehold on the upper echelons of the field. The two of them are running together as they've got Loris O'Wiggle and Daniel Greuch just a bit further away from them. Couple of seconds, roughly. We have seen, unfortunately, some races go to bad for worse. From bad to worse for some drivers here. Robert Homer having another off-track excursion, barely handling the car, keeping it together. Pedro Serrano is going to be stacking it as well, taking multiple knocks to his BMW M4 and hopefully making it back into the pits in one piece, as those pieces might not all be attached by the end of this one. We have Robert Homer making another blunder. This time it's going to be a spin round just heading into the second carousel, and is going to be overtaken by Serrano, who we just watched make a blunder of his own. Homer in P24 now. I think it's safe to say he's going to have to get that car home soon. Rich Arscombe is going to be heading into the pit lane. John Gabbett is going to get a quick overtake on him. Not many cars in the pits, as the lower half of the field is also going to complete their obligations and re-centralize their race positions. We're going to have Linatus just a bit ahead, but Björklund is going to overtake Zimmer, as Zimmer has not taken a pit stop either. So just to recap, everyone has taken a pit stop on this track, with the exception of Daniel Greuch in P4 and Randy Zimmer in P8. Both bronze class drivers, and I think both overestimating what their tyres can do. They might have fueled for it, but it's going to be a hard-fought margin to uphold. You're not going to have the space and timing to be able to get this one. Session is going to be a tough cookie to break in these last 25-ish minutes. Homer's going to be heading into the pits finally. Serrano pushes on up ahead despite question marks around his situation. Still looking a little bit scuffed, but say Desi along with Homer both heading into the pits now. See Ramon Lorenzo being in for around a minute, but now coming out. As Dismiquez is going to be just behind. Looks like Lorenzo is actually going to yield. The two have similar visual styles, so I wonder if they're teaming together on this. Cars are very similar visually, just a palette swap between the two. Meanwhile, Randy Zimmer is going to go from bad to worse, as he's conceded another position, this time to Wildner. Been a couple of contact situations. Peter Smith is going to be in hot water here. Looks like a bit of a tussle between these two. This is Craig Holmes trailing off Peter Smith, and contact between the two. Both of them slamming into the wall. There's a spin. There is a spin for Peter Smith, and then a pit stop for Craig Holmes. Smith has since recovered, but Holmes is curiously in the pits. what his game plan is there. Looks like a retirement. A retirement for Holmes. 3 drivers we have said goodbye to today. Fortunate circumstance. The crazy thing is that Lindblom is still running, and he is full-on marooned further down the order. He is absolutely marooned in his own pocket as far as racetrack is concerned. But he's still lapping at top pace. 8:13.1 is his best lap. Only outdone by 2 other drivers, which are first and second, funnily enough. Victor Verfart is going to be coming in fairly close with an 8:14.9, but stuck in the mid-pack. Zimmer's going to be demoted a couple positions yet again. I do think it was a blunder to stay out. I think he should have come in. He's clearly not running on time. He's not got the pace to be able to even remotely hold up to the others, and that mechanical grip is crucial to keep race effort alive. Verfart getting pretty close to an opportunity for Hero. Now, I think if he holds strong, the back straight, I think he'll have the speed to be able to get the position. And they are in separate races. It is worth bearing in mentioning they are in technically separate races. Verfart is in gold, Visuri is in silver, but needs to be able to get back to the others in his class and actually start fighting for the points. Got a bit of work to do. Serrano, meanwhile, back out on the street. That is the Green Hell, the Nordschleife. It's a curiosity. They of course have Touristenfahren. Does that technically make, because it's used by public cars and is by some definition an extension of public road, does that make this a street as well as a racetrack? Let me know. I don't want to call that a thought experiment because that sounds pretentious, but just a curiosity. Either way, random curiosities aside, Visuri is on the defensive. And not because I've asked really confusing questions, but because he's got an Aston Martin breathing down his neck. He's remained steadfast in that Porsche. He got spat out of the carousel a little bit too early there. He has allowed Verfart to close the gap. But now coming into the back straight, a good approach is crucial. You can hear rolling onto the throttle for Victor. Keeping in the slipstream much as one can. Get the exact amount of extraction of slipstream that you can possibly get. And then tuck to the side, open the taps up, use that slight overspeed to full advantage. Will you be able to hold it? The two drag racing side by side down the straight. Hiro is going to tuck in. That is concession of the move being completed. Will there be a hold through that back section, those last couple of corners and chicane? Verfart has got the position fair and square. Roich is going to head back into the pit finally. I can only hope that Zimmer does the same, as he is currently sat in P13 and not showing any signs of catching up soon. Going to be heading into the pit finally, which is already well in. We have just over 15 minutes. One thing abundantly clear is that the track is large to the point where a lot of our field have dispersed. Quite significantly at that. It's quite a lot of work to gain that time back. It's a driving challenge in its own right just to be staying on good pace here at the Nordschleife. Situation could be looking a bit dire. Some. As Zimmer, for instance, he's currently heading out of the pits. He's got a little bit of visual damage still, but he's going to be emerging what looks to be in P17. As John Gabbett's going to be heading out just behind him. Where is he going to come out relative to that BMW? He emerges onto the circuit. Like he's just going to be ahead. That's good for him because that's going to mean he preserves P4 and he's not going to have to concede P5 to John. Odd thing is that throughout all of this, North has remained steadfast and hasn't really been poked or prodded in any way. Lead of the bronze, quite significantly so, and stands to reason that he's got this race. This is his race to lose at this point. And I think he really has found his mojo. Confidence E. Overconfidence, your downfall. I think a lot of drivers have learned that lesson here. Excursions prior. Seriously, a overtake for the hand of Lang. 2 pit stops deep. And P23 as a result. It is unfortunate. We've seen a couple of gold class cars who have suffered interesting fates here at the hands of the Nordschleife. We had a couple of cars who have double stopped, pitted. So David Smith, for example, currently P19, also known as P6, the bronze class. He's got 2 stops under his belt. He's still ahead of some drivers who have 1, which is very commendable. Fortunately, we see Robert Homer, who has had yet another spin in the exact same place on the track, and I think they are returning to garage. I think that could be job done for Robert Homer in the number 6. Looks like that hopefully is going to be a sign of a return to track if they haven't disappeared immediately. But it's concerning. Let you know if that counter hits 29 instead of 30. Homer is going to be in the pits for the foreseeable future unless anything changes. We do have David Smith, who has crashed into the barriers and will be looking to make a quick recovery. Now, this is early in the lap is the problem. He's going to have to work hard to keep that car together for all the rest of this lap. Even if he does want to continue to the end, or if he wants to pit in, there will be the timer to consider. It looks like we will be getting 7 laps. Seven laps look like the optimal spacing. And we'll see if the rest of the drivers can capitalize on that, because a lap early finish, while it doesn't get you position, it does get you a heck of a opportunity to solidify and lock in your spot. Sweeping through now. Peyton, barefoot. Running in pretty close. Things could get a little bit dicey. Running in such close proximity here at the Nordschleife is a dangerous game to play. In a narrow, challenging track like this, you want to be quick, decisive, get your move done, get out. Verfart, Peyton, Hamby, all in a trio, running together. Really feeling the pressure of the competitors, but Hamby is going to keep confident, and he's actually got a bit of space with which to breathe compared to the others. Situation could be getting stressful. If that pressure mounts too high, that's when the mistakes come, and that's when the field starts to have some real shake-ups. But Martian Niesbet, Betsy conceding a position, it looks like, but back to our main fight. 10 minutes remain on the clock. Wolfslenner is about to finish lap 6, meaning that we will go to 8 laps of race distance. Far extremely close, very antsy to try and get round. Now, this section of the track are not recommended, but if you had a bit of patience, you'll be able to get the push out onto the back straight. That is where you want to go for it. Or if you make a mistake out of the second carousel, as demonstrated, Peyton concedes the spot to Victor. Now with the second between himself and Hamby, he's not going to benefit from the slipstream, and this could be the second chance, the second lease of life here for the McLaren. Peyton is going to be chasing. We have enough. Will there be enough for him to overtake? Get his spot back. He's pulling in a bit of time. We see Linatus and Björklund just up ahead, trade in the same manner. As Björklund is overtaking Linatus, displacing him back down to P6. Peyton has closed the gap, but closing the gap isn't good enough. He needs the position and he hasn't got it. Very strong under pressure, though. Careful, holding the line. That Pixel Pilots team really looks to be a strong candidate. Pixel Pilots team, strong candidate for teams to watch for sure. I know they have had presence in other competitions as well. Dissimilar to one of the big established teams we've seen on the grid in seasons prior, that being the Wolfpack. A rough time there for Smith as he briefly goes off course and yields a position to Serrano in the process. They've done through the carousel, regaining his composure quickly. Very pleased in the results that these drivers have been showing. It's not committed. Hamby is maybe feeling a little bit of pressure, but Verfart, remember, he's, like we mentioned before, he's in a different class, so it might actually be expedient for Hamby to yield and then allow him to almost pull him forward
That could be what he needs to catch up to the likes of Wildner and Linatus at the top. Though that being said, if that is a strategy he wants to execute, he better do it quickly because he's only got 6 minutes. He's wrong. I can feel it. Björklund, meanwhile, P5, chasing down McNair on his P4 spot. McNair, I think, has had one of the most impressive races today as far as gold class goes. Now, of course, you can make the argument that top brass, they're always consistently performing highly, but in terms of just raw gains, I have to give it to McNair. He's P4, he started 11th, in the same way that North started in 21st and is now P12. He's really taken big strides. Massive strides as this session is. Peter Smith is going to be running slow on track. He's going to be allowing the others to get by, respecting blue flag protocol. Always wise. Sportsmanship being prioritized, the things that we love to see. Because may want to finish first, but first to do that, got to finish. Got to respect the others who are finishing too. Like the cough button didn't quite capture that one in time. Looking good for Marsh and for Gabbert, actually, in a sort of turn of events. Now, last time we checked properly in on Randy Zimmer, he was hemorrhaging time through the lack of a pit stop. He seems to have recalibrated here, but it's not quite materializing in the way I think he hopes. Marsh has come out, and Groich has got himself in P14. Marsh, of course, 2 classes above, needs to get things moving for himself. Timothy Gabbert, by comparison, is much more apples to apples. Now, I do have information that Desi, aka Roger Dismikes, did have a drive-through penalty to clear. So that's why he currently stands at P24, further down the order than I think that he'd like. Behind Arscombe, remember, didn't qualify. Here is Lindblom making his way around Björklund in effectively an attempt to outlap himself, or unlap himself, should I say. Linatus makes a crucial mistake. Did it seem like McNair is caught in the crossfire? Let's wind the clocks back a bit. This is going to be McNair at the time P4, as he's ahead of Björklund where he stood. Now let's jump on the onboard, see how he's getting on. You can see some of the higher sections, higher speed sections, and unfortunately just a big slam there for himself onto the wall there. Rough innings for the Nismo. He has got it held together, and it doesn't look like he's lost too much performance. But still going to be a bit of a hard done by situation. Linatus has also made a mistake of his own, so he's recovered 1 position, but Björklund is a whole 5 seconds away. Things coming to a close relatively soon. We are going to see Wolfslener lead onto the final lap. Gaimar about 2 seconds adrift in the background. Amount of dirt that's built up on these cars as well. It must be said that this track isn't punishing. But alas, weeping their way through. Fully demonstrating. Final lap now. courtesy of the leaders as the timer going to make it clear. I was expecting that pause there, but that was me expecting race control to chip in saying the leader is on the final lap, give it all you've got, and sadly absent. I feel disappointed. Very disappointed, the lack of a trackside announcer. Guess I got to do everything around here, but alas. Peter Smith having an unfortunate off. That's going to lose him some crucial time. I think he is safe in his current position. E26. Next closest car is over a minute away. In fact, yes, 105 seconds. And counting quite sporadically at that. This is going to be Chris Wilson. So safe for the time being. A little bit of a mid-pack battle here as we head into the final lap here for the 3 racers who've run in close quarters, but it's time to go. Really commit to this fight. Wildner, Hamby, Payton, all 3 of them, all silver. This is the closest fighting that you are going to get this latter stage of the race now. Full commitment. Going all in. Wildner, how are you going to defend from this one? You've got 2 very fast drivers on your tail. And this is a fight for P2. Ignatius has got his position secured up in E6 and first for silver about 10 seconds away. This is going to be the much more interesting fight. How he holds on, builds the pressure. Timer has fully elapsed, meaning that it really is curtain call. After this next lap, it will be signalling at the end here. Wildner is managing to pull a little bit of a gap here. To his credit, he's hold on nicely. Bit of a chokehold on these 2. And as try as one might, as we saw from Hamby there, with the shake of the rear axle. You can push, you can try and attack, but there just aren't enough angles. There's not enough of an aperture available for such calculated risks. Same light, McNair on the defensive now from Linatus. But saying that, just as we tune away, comms curse in full effect. Let's rewind the clock, says Wildner. Literally about as we were thinking we were going to see an attack between Linatus and McNair to head. See how this one plays out. Here is Wildner's POV. Up to the corner, a little bit rocky, and all crucial lift off oversteer, bit of a slide, and that's going to be just as quickly. Concession of the position. That's all there is to it. Meanwhile, McNair has dropped the position as well to Linatus, so that's another one we're going to have to quickly check in on. Now, McNair was on the lead of things. And heading into the sort of higher speed section, Linatus had the left side. He had claim to that part of the corner. Now McNair does make the choice to yield, and you can see fairly composed and minimal dramas there. Gold drivers. Solid running from all counts. Now, taking a sort of final attestation before we get to the inevitable end of the race and we do the full standings breakdown. Lead of the race is going to be Peter Wolfslener, but is second away, and closing in is Friedrich Geomar. I wonder if these 2 are going to play things off for the championship here. Wolfslener is in P9, Geomar's in P5. If he can get this podium on his docket, that would be very,
very useful. AMR is rapidly closing time, so you're going to have to watch this space here. And oh, big slide from both cars! Both cars have made offs, but one more dramatically than the other. Gayamar's going to capitalise on his teammate's misfortune. Wolfslander with a full slam into the wall and spin. Just as we say in the two trading places will be expedient for the championships, it's like they heard me and one conveniently went onto the grass. Looks like Wolfslander can't get enough of it either. He's going into the grass once again on the approach to the carousel. Car looking visibly unsettled throughout this last section. Four more local yellows dotting their way around the course. Robert Homer, for instance, on his third pit stop, but still, like a centurion, remains resolute and commits to finishing the race. This is the sportsmanship we want to see. Exactly the sportsmanship we wanted. In back over the other side of things, and the lead of the silver class is going to be Tomas Leonatus, who has certainly found his footing and made his name for himself. A silver as a legitimate threat here at the Nordschleife, at least. And finally, it's Alex North who is leading for the bronzes, and while a bit marooned from the rest of the pack on the track at least, has got himself firmly locked in. Comes to his final section here for the racers, and for Gayamar, it's his race to lose. No driver is able to really tee up to him, and he's proven himself to be a formidable opponent. Seasons past and now. This could be the start of a real resurgence and reintroducing him to the championship fight. You look at in perspective to the current championship leaders. Grosgaz is his only major competitor, and we don't see him anywhere on the racecourse. Wiggle is in P3 and is going to remain P3 in his championship run, leading 2 podiums. But if this is going to be the podium for Gayamar, this will slingshot him into the 100 points mark. And when we start to see drop rounds take effect, that 75% podium record is going to show in hand in its favour. I'm pretty excited to see where this champion. Now we have got a 10-round season, and next week at Indy is going to be the halfway point. There's a lot to look forward to there. 10 consecutive weeks is a challenge for any committed driver. There's a commitment. There's one that comes with drop rounds just in case, and so we do see the chances afforded for major upsets week to week. It's a consistent series and you love to see it. But as we come through to the final chicanes, and 1 hour later from setting tyre in the green hell, one driver comes out on top. His name is Frederick Gayamar, and he's got himself the win here at the Nordschleife for round 4 of the season. Season 12, that is, of SIMSeniors. Making their way through, not too far behind, it's Lorenzo Wiggle in a change of events, as Peter Wolfslander either made a mistake or lost significant time as he's come through to P3. More cars soon to be making their way through, because next on the docket is going to be Victor. Is that going to be Victor? No, it's not going to be Victor. Curiously, Lindblom is going to be 25th, but I think if he had his way, he would certainly be that sort of 4th finishing spot as he'd, I think, intended. Race has officially come to a close, though. Björklund is going to come through P4 for the golds, and then trailing Verfart, who has done a mighty fine job to regain positions. Leonatus, leader and winner of the silver class here for tonight in the Nordschleife. P5 and P6 for gold is going to go to Victor Verfart and to Colin McNair, who had unfortunately a bit of a rough innings towards the end, but still made plenty good work of this one. Amby and Waldner are going to be coming through next, 2nd and 3rd for the class respectively. And then there's James Payton lining up alongside his good compatriot and a similarly liveried bikini friend. Next for you through is going to be Iro, who's doing a little bit of a spin around the 2nd apex. GP circuit, and more cars are going to be coming through in due course. Next up on the docket, and before we talk bronze, it's going to be Dave Marsh. Marsh doing a very good job here. That's going to be putting him P7 in the gold class standings as he makes his way up to the line right now. North is going to be just ahead of Gruich and very tensely fighting. These two are going to bring it right to the line. Here's Gruich. He's very close, but a good placement of the car is going to deny any such luxury. Gruich is going to be behind North as it gets second and first. Bronze. Last out of the podiums, it's going to be a driver we haven't really given much love to, but absolutely deserves it. Craig Niesbet, P3 in his dark blue Nismo, has secured himself a solid spot as far as positions go, and I think that he's going to be very thankful with that points haul, because that might slingshot him out of the mid-pack, these standings tables. Simon Eade next up to the line. That's a solid performance there for the silver driver. That's P6 for this occasion. And our last few cars are following and filing in due course. Now the last finisher that we are going to see is going to be Sean Murphy, because Sean is all the way down at the halfway point of the circuit. So we're not going to be seeing him exactly get back to the track for a good while. Randy Zimmer comes through. Despite a tumultuous mid-section of his race tonight, he's managed to recover decently well, and in the end he does finish P. Drop on his initial spots, but still the session has done well for him. Cars now coming through. Driver here who has suffered a couple of casualties. Self and Pete are both, but many drivers who have faced setbacks here at the Green Hell, they chose to. They continued to push and they gave it their all. Smith coming across the line in P6. Nice Lang. His double pit stop undid him here, unfortunately, but still managing a decent result. If underwhelming, it was still a consistent race from him with minimal dramas. That second pit stop was on doing, and all the context surrounding. Next up to the docket, Nick Morrison. W. That's going to be a P7 finish for him. That we have 3 cars yet finish out of that a section. Out of those on current laps, shall I say. Cars who are currently laps down. Oscom coming up to the line. Old Aston, we didn't really get to see much of him tonight, was it? A little bit of a shame. As a P2 in the standings might not be what he's able to keep. There are some serious competitors say about his, but Norwich in particular will be watch, I feel. Here's coming up, but Ramon Lorenzo up into P28. 33 starters, 30 finishers. Session complete for Porsche. Last couple of cars on the docket here as Serrano returns to the pits. Whatever reason, had to jump back. Here for coming through. Luis Marquez is the number 420, and that is going to be the penultimate car to finish this session out here. Last driver to come through, it's Sean Murphy. as drivers are now starting to leave the session, where we're going to take a bit of a wrapper on things. Minor question mark with regards to the timing board, as we do have a retirement out technically before the session is over. But that is going to be conclusions day. Well done to all of the drivers. Quite the test of endurance and war of attrition throughout the entire, but certainly impressed with everyone on the race course. Efforts deserve to be celebrated. So that's where we're going to conclude things for tonight. Anyway, folks, it's been a pleasure as always to be broadcaster for you. Next week we head over to Indian. That is a track I certainly have a lot of love for. I think it's a track that deserves sometimes a bit better than it gets. I think it does very easily capture a lot of flack. But that's where we're going to be heading, and I think that there's a hidden technicality in this track that I think we can only really appreciate by being trackside ourselves. But that's what we're going to do it for tonight anyway, folks. Thank you so much for watching. My name's been Ben Sapsford. Hopefully you'll join us next week for this round. If you haven't done so already, you know where to go. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the content, and like the stream if you haven't done so already. It really helps, pushes us up, make sure that we can keep doing what we're doing. And if you want to get involved or support us, we've got the Facebook group, we've got the Discord, and we've got our multiple avenues with which you can support us, all in the description as well. That's all for now, folks. Take care as always. See you next time. Thank you, and goodbye.